Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to The Unstoppable Singer. I'm your host, Danielle Tucker. I'm a singer, a vocal coach, and a lead singer with the Mighty Untouchables band. I produced and hosted the Pandemic Proof Singer Summit 1 and 2, and now I'm producing and hosting The Unstoppable Singer. And The Unstoppable Singer is an interview style show where I follow the lives of real life professional singers. And these singers have made incredible achievements in their lives and careers. We cover everything from voice work, making money, booking gigs, songwriting, recording, session work, um, and more. So, we're going to be focusing on going from surviving to thriving and safeguarding our careers. So, if this sounds like something for you, please stick around because I'm about to introduce my incredible guest tonight. My guest tonight is Chris Hutton. Chris is an LA based musician who brings passion, professionalism, and care to everything that he does. As a vocalist, Chris has worked with renowned LA contractors Tim Davis, Edie Lehmann Boddicker, and others, and has performed in styles from pop to jazz to opera. And in addition to singing, Chris has collaborated with Grammy-nominated producer Bruce Vanderveer and provides coaching for record label InRage Entertainment. Chris holds a bachelor's in commercial music from Biola University, where he underwent artist development in songwriting and production with Disney songwriter Adam Watts, receiving the Bishop Scholarship for Voice. So please welcome Chris Hutton. Hello, Chris.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. You and I have not had the pleasure of actually meeting in person yet. This is our first time meeting online, but I actually discovered you through Wendy Wagner.
Oh my gosh, I love Wendy. She's awesome.
She is awesome. Yeah. So that's how I learned about you. But as I've been preparing for our interview tonight, of course, I've been listening to all of your music and reading up on you. And you have a really awesome new single out called Rewind. Congratulations on that. It's really awesome. I loved it. I listened to it several times today, and it's super infectious. So tell me about that.
So Rewind actually, and that was a really fun one to do. That's like my one kind of mediocre claim to internet fame is I actually did, because that song was just it was a shower idea. I wrote it and like I finished writing the chorus in about 15-20 minutes. I just like, I don't know, it was one of those ideas you don't know really where it comes from. It just kind of pops into your head. And I got out of the shower and was like, I'm going to record this. So I did just a quick demo of it. And I just did like a TikTok video. It wasn't anything fancy. It was just not even good audio. It was just me lip syncing. And it got like a few 100,000 views,
wow.
Which is, and so it was like, and like my Spotify streams went way up from where they had been, and it was just like this, oh, I guess I have something here. I gotta finish this song. Damn.
Yeah.
So we just, and I did that with Bruce Vanderveer, Automatic, who was mentioned in that wonderful introduction. And you see, like, he just kind of worked his magic with it. It took a while to get it out just because of life and COVID and just other things that just came up, but it dropped. I think we're working. I need to call Automatic, because he actually was running like a remix contest for it and had a couple of different producers doing some cool things with it that I've been like very kind of in the dark about. It's been kind of his like secret project. So I think I can talk about that. I didn't sign anything. So that's kind of how that song materialized. Very, very unexpected, and one of my favorite things I've written so far, definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's talk about that phenomenon with TikTok. I noticed you've got quite a few followers on TikTok, something like well over 11,000 followers. Did your followers kind of skyrocket after this video, or did you already have a substantial following before you put this out?
Oh yeah, and it was like, because I had, I think, like the triple digits. I had like 600 some followers before, and then like immediately, like I think like within a couple of days, I was over 10,000. And I wish, like, that's sounds a lot more impressive than it actually is. Like TikTok is a weird place. Like it doesn't always even show the people who follow you the videos you post. So like my engagement has never been nearly what it was for that video. But at least most of those followers stuck around, which is encouraging. But it's a weird. TikTok is weird. You can't really count on TikTok to deliver your content to people, which is unfortunate. But it's a cool, when it works really well. So for that was a particular instance where it worked really well.
Yeah, that's so crazy. So when that video that you posted hit, did you get any feedback from the people watching the video that gave you a sense of like what it was that was helping it to gain so much traction?
I think it was, and because I remember when I thought of it, well, I'll actually go in order. I'll rewind. That. No, don't laugh at that. Don't pity laugh at that. Because I did see a lot of comments saying like, oh my gosh, this is like what I'm going through right now, or oh my gosh, this is like my last relationship or situationship. And for people who've never heard the song before, like the main lyric is not exactly a nice rosy lyric. Is it bad that I never want to see you again? And when I started writing it, it was kind of this experiment in empathy, I want to say, because I am typically in relationships the person who is chasing, pursuing, wanting to make things work, wanting to like go the extra mile. And I just had this idea of like, what is it like on the other side of that? What is it like for a more avoidant person, or somebody who maybe like doesn't want to be pursued, doesn't want to engage that way?
Right.
Because that was, I mean, at the time, and actually it's funny because this is not the first time a song I've written has been kind of prophetic, where I didn't think I was writing about me, and then like time progressed and I had an experience. It was like, oh, I was writing about me. So I wanted to like kind of lens switch and go like, what is this like for like a person who is running away instead of pursuing. And it was weird because like that at the time, that was very much not my experience in relationships. It was very much not my friends' experience in relationships. So like the people that I know are pretty attached and pretty, wanting to hold on. So it was kind of jarring to me when I wrote that chorus, because it was very much like not something that you would read on paper and think, oh, I want to relate to this person. It's not particular, at least in my purview, it's not a character that I would necessarily want to relate with. But as I kept writing the song, it humanized the other side of that dynamic for me a little bit.
Yeah,
which is really, because it's really easy to I think vilify someone who doesn't like you back, or somebody who doesn't reciprocate in the same way. And I've had many frustrations with people like that. But as I was writing the song, it was almost like the song revealed to me, it was like teaching me as I was writing it, like, oh, this isn't as simple. This isn't like, there's more here than just like a good guy, bad guy, like pursuant, avoidant type of relationship dynamic. And that was surprisingly relatable to a number of people. So yeah, that was, I don't know if that answers the question, but that's kind of some of the feedback I got. At the inception of it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. I've never thought of the fact that, we don't really hear a ton of songs that are written from that side of the, emotions in a relationship. And you're right that person's always seems to be kind of characterized as the cold-hearted one, I guess, or the distant, icy one. But, to bring like some humanity to it, that was probably a reason why that hit for a lot of people.
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, well, I hope you get to be that person on that side of the equation more often than not.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's true, honestly. I'm not sure about that.
Oh, man.
Rewind that back,
Honestly,
okay?
I don't think characters represented in pop music should ever be aspirational. I think
Right,
like
that's true.
healthy people rarely make compelling pop songs. So,
That's true. I love that.
oh, man.
Awesome. Well, let's dip in more to your writing background. I was checking out all of your songs on Spotify. You've got quite a lot out there. Um, do you mostly release singles, or do you have any album length releases that you've done in the past?
Oh yeah, I had one EP that I released like right after college that was kind of like my initial passion project. I had a follow-up plan to it that didn't happen. But that's good. That's the it's like I think it's 5 songs. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think it I'm trying to remember. I think I know what music I've released. Yeah, but that's the most, that's like the biggest chunk of
Mm-hmm.
music I've released at once. Since then it's been singles. And most people anymore are going to just doing singles, doing songs when they feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
Partially just because it's a lot cheaper to release one song than it is to release 10 plus tracks at once. I think it's more fun. You get to kind of just really focus on one thing, and then just immediately get it out there. So yeah, probably mostly singles for the future. I don't know, but that's kind of where we're heading right now.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, as a songwriter, there's so many different channels of opportunity that you can pursue. You know, when you're really building your career out, and I am assuming, since I came to know you through Wendy Wagner, that you're involved in session work, and obviously, you know, you're writing songs as an artist. I'm curious to know, what are the different avenues for you that you pursue kind of on a daily basis as a singer-songwriter? Are you trying to license music? Are you in the, you know, corporate music, commercial music avenue? You know, what does the whole ball of wax look for you as a singer?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot. I joke and say at any time I have between like 3 and 6.5 different jobs,
Yeah.
just because that's kind of how being a working musician is.
Mhm.
I am getting like starting to kind of dip my toes into licensing, which is its whole other world. There's a lot of different kind of collaborative co-working spaces. I've recently, like within the past couple of months, teamed up with a couple of really talented producers, and we're kind of giving it a go together, which
Mhm.
is definitely a lot less daunting and more encouraging than just kind of doing it yourself.
Mhm.
So that's still kind of hopefully like within the next 1 to 5 years, actually monetizing that.
Mhm.
But my kind of like my daily bread and butter is teaching and vocal production. So I have a couple of like private vocal students or songwriting students for songwriting coaching. I teach at a music studio out in Lake Forest a few days a week. And I have a few regular clients that I do vocal production, editing, and sometimes co-writing for.
Mhm.
Those are really fun. So that's kind of the steadiest, you know, what keeps the music train going. And like session work, whenever it comes along, that's like, as any session singer will tell you, that it can be hit or miss.
Mhm.
But I get like a couple, usually a couple projects, like a month, that are remote. And actually, that's something that's really nice. I don't want to say a benefit of COVID, but it was like one of the unexpected positives of COVID was
Right.
people realizing how much session work can actually be done remotely. And
Mhm.
as much as I love like going to a legit studio and singing with a bunch of other people, there is something to be said for just, you know, singing at 2 a.m. in your pajamas, in your bedroom. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's simply just another opportunity. It's another opportunity, and it kind of like levels the playing field for a lot of singers out there, because obviously if you're LA based or you're New York City based, you have a much higher advantage, to getting session work and working on, those larger scope projects. But, if you're a great singer living in the Midwest or, something like that, your
Yeah.
opportunities might be slim pickings. But, when it comes to everything that's available online now, and now all of the platforms that are out there, actually posting jobs, to singers who can remotely record. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love that. So do you do much in the live performance space?
I do. I've done wow, my brain just completely short-circuited for a second. I've been like, I was kind of a front man for like an 80s rock cover band for a little bit. I've started doing caroling for during the Christmas season, which is coming up. I can't already I'm getting ready for Christmas gigs, which I don't want to think about. But that's really fun. It was very stressful last year because I just did way too much of it, and I worked for 2 different companies, which is not happening again this year. But like I have, you get your fair share of like one-offs or like gigs through friends, or like I have a pianist buddy of mine who he and I do like sets out just when each of us get connections for like private events or things like that. So there's a smattering of live stuff. Probably going to be more within the next year, because I just joined as a sub for like a jazz doo-wop group, which I'm really excited about. So there's a smattering.
Yeah. Well, I always love to ask that question because I think it's so important for singers who are really trying to break into this business to kind of see, what the day in the life of a real working singer is. And the fact is that more often than not, we all have multiple channels of income. It's quite a variety. And I honestly think that, a lot of us learned some tough lessons about that when COVID came through. If we had all of our eggs in one basket, so for instance, if we were purely in the, live performance space, that was rough. But everyone who was maybe already doing some session work, doing some production, or other things of that nature, songwriting, that was really a beautiful opportunity to kind of stay in business. So I always really like to point that out and dig into the real dirt on that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to kind of go back in time a little bit and go back to how you got started as a musician, if you were coming from a musical family, and what your musical journey has been like.
Yes, indeed. I was born to a music teacher. My mom taught everything. She taught private piano and voice. She directed choir, band, and orchestra. She taught high school, middle school, community kids choirs. Like she did all of it. My sister was as of recently. She's actually changed lanes and is going back to medical school because of course she is. She's a badass. But she was a professional music theater performer for over a decade. So it was always in the house. My dad's an engineer because somebody had to have a not music career. But he's still he played saxophone. He's in choir with my mom now. They're in church choir. So I was always around it. My first instrument was violin. My mom started me on it when I was 5 because she could tell. I would go with her. She was directing her kids choirs, and I would just kind of hang out with the graduate assistants or whoever in the lobby. And in the car on the way back, because I would be listening through the door, I would be humming or singing the melodies that I was hearing from her choir kids. So they got me in with just a fabulous violin teacher, Mrs. Larner. If you somehow see this,
if you're out there,
you're amazing. So I started doing that. I did piano for a hot second. That was interesting because my mom was a piano teacher. She tried to teach me piano for a bit. We almost killed each other. Like our personalities are too similar. It did not go well. Bless. But then I found a new piano teacher, and my dad took me to lessons, and that was much healthier for everybody involved. And then I was in my mom's kids choirs when I got to be that age. I started taking I did choir like through high school with her. I did voice lessons after my voice started to change, and that was definitely the thing. I think it was because it was the showiest and got me the most attention. But I did voice lessons, and that was very much like, this is the one, this is the thing, this is what I want to do. So I majored in music. I actually started as an opera, a classical voice major, because it was like, I'm gonna get the classical training and then somehow be a singer-songwriter.
Right.
Classical training, by the way, I'm like, people are gonna get mad at me for this. Classical training is a lie. Not a lie, but it is highly overrated. I can say that because I was classically trained.
Right.
So then I switched to commercial music when I discovered it was a thing, and like, now somehow that led to this situation. What's happening now? So that's kind of the Cliff's notes of what led here.
Yeah, interesting. Well, yeah, I want to dive into that comment that you made too, because it is so controversial, but I think it's really something that needs to be talked about. I was also classically trained, and I don't know what my thought process was at the time, because I didn't see a classical music path for myself. I saw something entirely different, but that's what was available to me. And I thought, well, that's what you do, you know?
Yeah, same. No, God. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So did you require a lot of unlearning when you got into the commercial space, or were you able to just kind of acclimate, but you also could see, you know?
Yeah, actually not really. And I was really, and that part of it, like, I'm realizing now, reflecting back on it, just how blessed I was by teachers when I was like a teenager. Because one of my teachers, when I was in high school, was because I grew up in Colorado. He was a professor at Colorado State University at the time, and he did not take a ton of high school students, but I ended up being one of the few that he chose for his studio, and he was just excellent. Again, Dr. Seasolds, if you're out there, I'll just shout out all my old music teachers. But he is a PhD in vocal pedagogy. He's just like this. If anybody who should have been classic, like the classically trained camp, it should have been him. And he was so just nonchalant about it. He had me do theater. He had me do jazz. Like, anything I wanted to do, he would help me do. Like, and he used to say, yeah, pop is just classical with bad vowels, which I don't quite agree with anymore. But like, it was very much, which like, yeah, just like, do it all, go for it. There was none of this messaging of like, oh, you have to pick a lane, you have to, you know, be like classical training is like the end all be all of singing. There was none of that. So I didn't really encounter that. I knew it was a thing, but I didn't really encounter it until I got to college. And I was in this classical conservatory, and everybody was just so hung up on classical versus pop and legit singing. I hate that, by the way. Like anybody that tries to sell you that classical is legit singing and everything else somehow implies that everything else is not legitimate. I probably shouldn't swear on this platform, but do not don't pay any attention to those people. And so it's like, it was weird because I grew up and I was trained with this attitude of like, yeah, you can do anything. And then I got to college and it was this whole rivalry between classical and pop. And then I this might be a tangent, and I'll try to keep this concise. But I discovered, and it wasn't because they actually started the commercial program while I was there. It wasn't offered as a major until my sophomore year. in school. And I think I heard one of the office admins talking about it over lunch. It wasn't even something I pursued. I just happened to hear it and they were talking about it. And I was like, this sounds kind of cool. So I asked the coordinator in the office, like, hey, is this a thing? Like I heard Katie talking about this over lunch. Like, do you have any information on this? And it wasn't even like I was thinking of changing my major or anything. But the coordinator was like, yeah, let me see if I can find some stuff out for you. And she was so proactive and she's so good at her job that she emailed all of the area professors trying to get info. And my classical voice teacher saw that email. And I just, so like, unbeknownst to me, I did not, yeah, okay, yeah, oh, you can see where this is going. So like, I show up, like little freshman me shows up to my lesson the next week, like unaware that any of this had gone on. And like my voice teacher, like my classical teacher is this just big, tall, like just very imposing baritone man, voice you could hear from across campus, like just sang at the Met, like that kind of person. So he just he opens the door to his office with just this grave demeanor on his face. Says, "Come in, Chris. Sit down." And he had me sit, and he had this giant, oh my God, I remember it so vividly. He has this giant wingback chair in his office that you just like sank into while he just like baritoned down at you. And it was just this whole spiel about, you know, you got to be careful. You're going to have nodes by the time you're 25. I went to a Christian college at the time. So of course God came into it. It was like, you're wasting your talent. Like, this isn't God's plan for you. Oh my God. It was like, so all of that. And I like kind of walked out of that lesson just going, what? what is this? Why, what, how the, and I ended up, for like both for scholarship reasons and because I kind of wanted to just prove everybody wrong. I switched to commercial the next year, but I kept a minor in applied voice and I kept my opera scholarship. So I did, and I think I was the only person at the school who did this. I think who did a classical lesson and a pop lesson, and did pop ensembles and classical and choral ensembles. And literally everybody, from the classical side, my area professors who are not vocalists, but like my area professors, the dean, everybody like had kind of like cautionary meetings with me, going like, oh, you're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do it. It's like jack of all trades, master of none. I got the nodes by the time you're 25 speech every week for a year in my classical lesson. It was this whole thing. The one person who was totally chill with it, who was like, yeah, go for it, was my pop voice teacher. My commercial voice teacher was the one person, and my teacher at the time was David Laux, who's a phenomenal LA session singer. He's been on top of the game for years. And he was just like, yeah, no, it's not jack of all trades, master of none. It's jack of all trades, master of all trades. Like you have to do this. This is great.
I like that.
Do it. Which is true. Like, you need to do everything and you need to be excellent at everything, because there's a lot of good singers out there. And like, also it's more fun. It's more fun to do all of the things. So it was like, he was the one person who was like the pop person, the commercial voice person was the one person who was like, one, super chill about it, and two, super supportive. Like, yeah, go for it. So it was a very odd, and like, I'm glad. I don't think I would have had kind of the wherewithal to put myself through that if I hadn't been taught by somebody like before then in high school, for whom the whole classical, contemporary, legit, non-legit, like pick a lane mentality was a thing. So yeah, I could go on for longer, but I that's probably more than enough.
Well, I definitely can relate to that so much. And I don't know what your thoughts on this are, but it seems like just now, and, you know, maybe I guess this was kind of before COVID, but I'm just thinking about, like what I've seen kind of unfold in, I believe I saw that you're a member of NATS, the National Association of Teachers of Singing.
Yeah, I'm member adjacent. I've done some stuff through NATS, and I like my current studio. I'm representing a few students for NATS through another teacher. So yeah, I'm aware and adjacent to NATS, but I probably should have the disclaimer to say that I'm not officially a member yet.
Well, it's just this organization obviously houses, all genres, but up until a few years ago, it was predominantly classical. And it really just seems like now that's being, opened up to more commercial music. There's more opportunities for commercial singers, but man, the controversy is hot. And now the controversy is, classical teachers wanting to teach pop,
Oh, bless them.
Yeah. What do you think for kids growing up today? Obviously, music is not what it once was in the schools now, which is obviously a shame. But let's just say, in a perfect world, a child or, middle school age child is giving, opportunities for singing in various genres. So are you thinking that it's more important for a child to experience like all of those genres and then be able to like decide for themselves which lane they want to go down? Or, should they start with classical and then, get an opportunity to go into commercial?
Yeah, it depends on the kid. But I think especially at that age, and like as somebody who teaches young kids like how to sing, like my primary goal is not for teaching kids, especially before puberty, before voice change, before all of that. I have two main goals. One, first and foremost is just that they have fun, just that they enjoy it. I don't care. I don't really give a rip about classical, pop, whatever, as long as they're having fun, and to make them give them musical vocabulary and make them proficient enough to succeed if they do choose to go on to be more serious about music in the future. But like the bottom line is like most kids aren't going to want to sing Roger Quilter or like art songs that. And like one of the main curriculums, you can even call it a curriculum, I guess it is, but for kids that young is rock school, which I was not even aware of until this year. And now I use it with almost all of my kids singers. It's pop songs primarily. It's some Disney, it's some Beatles, it's some like just a smattering of contemporary music and shortened arrangements and ranges appropriate for kids, lyrics edited to be appropriate for kids. And it's just kind of like a very introductory, like verse chorus type of, this is our great songs from recent decades. Have at it. Very not necessarily like, I mean, anything can be challenging if you pitch it right. But pitch as in, I'm mixing metaphors, pitch as in like sell it, not pitch as in like musical pitch. But like I love using a model like that for kids because it's basically giving them just like this is just music. There's no like expectation for you to sound a certain way or do anything beyond just learning a song and having fun. I think music has to start there because if I come in trying to sell art songs to an 8-year-old, they're not gonna. And I do think there is, and I think part of that is like building trust with students because I do have students where I like you do the dance of like, okay, we're gonna do one thing you really want to do, and we're gonna do this one. I'm gonna use my teacher power to make us do this one because I know it's gonna be good for you. But that's trust you earn. You don't always don't start there, because you want the kids to like what they're doing. And at the end of the day, singers are storytellers. And if a kid loves telling stories, they're going to love to sing. And if that love is fostered, and that's my job, to foster that love of storytelling, not a love of technique, not a love of sounding good or sounding a certain way, but a love of communicating with people and communicating through a medium that happens to be music. And if we can start there, I don't care if they want to just do pop and nothing else. I don't want to care if they want to do jazz, opera, do it all. Like whatever is going to best help them tell the stories they want to tell and connect with themselves and with others. That's all I care about. Like that's, and I think technique is a proxy issue. I don't think technique should be primary in that, especially with kids.
I love that answer so much. I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to use that whole, however many minutes it was, as a soundbite forever and ever. I love that very, very much. That's great. Yeah. And I think that, that is so true, especially, the young ones. It really has to be just that fun-based learning that just keeps them naturally motivated. I mean, how often do you hear adults kind of talking about their stories of childhood and, being forced to take piano lessons, from the mean lady next door and, avoiding that at all costs, but just really like fostering an environment where they can be, safe and experimental and just really, want to embrace and enjoy the music just for the joy of it and just for the discovery of it. But that's really, really beautiful. So you said that curriculum is called Rock School?
Yes. Rock School, they have several different levels. The introductory is debut, and I believe it's actually a British company that does the curriculum, but they have like a certification program that you can do. They have like really excellent tracks and accompaniment for everything, which is really nice because that's difficult to find for a lot of things. But yeah, just good. And like the songs like increase in like difficulty and length the higher you get level wise. But yeah, it's fun, and it's appropriate too, which is like a challenge for kids that come in wanting to sing like Christina Aguilera or something like that, which is a whole other conversation. But yeah, no, like, and it was introduced to me through the studio that I started teaching at this year, so I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, very cool. I'm definitely going to check that out. I'm curious to know, in your practice, you've mentioned like Christina Aguilera and just like song selection and like kind of using your teacher power to influence some of the selection, but letting them do what they want to do. How do you navigate that, just that ongoing process with kids? Because what I find in my own practice is that the attention span to one individual song is like, they're okay with, working on it in one session, but by the time they come back for the next session, they are like fully over it. And we'd barely even begun to like kind of peel back the layers of what was going on with the song.
Yeah.
So how do you use your teacher powers to navigate those situations?
Oh gosh, I don't know. It depends. It depends on the kid, and because like I have students that are just totally ride or die for anything. They really like, they put in the work. They really want to succeed. They want to do well, and those kids are easy. Like that's it. There's nobody needs help knowing how to teach those kids because they practically teach themselves. But I do have kids, and especially young ones, who like come in the next week and we're still working on the same things, or they forgot to practice or didn't look at the app we have for keeping track of assignments and whatnot, didn't do like, and are just kind of there. Not, I'm trying to think, because I do have, honestly, I don't have a ton of kids who are just there because their parents are making them do it, which is pleasant. So yeah, it's like some kids that are like just want to be there, but are just really absent-minded, or like attention span the size of a peanut. And you just kind of see where in my experience, you just kind of see where the wind blows that week, and you do what you can. And sometimes that means reviewing a song you've reviewed 20 times, but they've forgotten it. They still don't know the words. Or it means you look at a new song every week because they're bored with it. That's not, and I promise I'm not sponsored by Rock School. Like I'm not. I just tried to do a pitch, but that is what's kind of nice. Yeah, that is what's kind of nice about it, is because especially the earlier levels, they are really short. They're really manageable, and a lot of them are songs that are kind of in the common cultural vernacular already. So you can do that. You can revisit songs every week really easily if they don't practice or if they forget. And you can switch it up and do kind of a new song every time to just see what sticks. And it's not like a huge undertaking. It's not like you're having to reinvent the wheel every time. So yeah, I just like, that's a very much a non-answer, but it's just kind of, it just depends on the kid. I don't know. You make it up as you go along.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I was asking for purely selfish reasons. So thank you for that. So I wanted to kind of go back to your musical journey, because you talked about you graduated from Biola, and then so you came from a musical family. Your mom had that influence on you. You went through the academia, but throughout this process, were you getting much guidance on how you actually become a professional musician and how you go into it and earn a living? And if so,
nope.
How did you, I knew that was going to be the answer, but how did you make that transition into the profession? Was it mentorship? Like
Poorly.
Okay. Let's talk about it. Tell me about it.
I made that transition poorly. It was, oh gosh, like there was a lot of just kind of trial and error. And honestly, like I'm grateful for my education at Biola, but I do think I probably would have been better prepared for the professional world if I had gone to someplace like USC or UCLA. But I was very Christian at the time, and I didn't know those schools existed. But it's like, because I didn't know what a demo was until after I graduated. I did that was because of talking with David, my teacher, but it's like, it wasn't a required project, I think. And at least, I don't know if this is still the case, but I believe like one of my colleagues who had gone to USC, like they had to make a demo their junior year. It was like a demo reel. So I didn't know what it was. My first demo reel, I made it myself. It was trash. Like it was like, I'm not surprised. I did not hear back from nary a contractor when I sent that shit out. But like that is a very effective way to learn, albeit unpleasant. So I talked with David a lot. I picked his brain a couple of times. I also, like most of my friends at the time were musicians or recent graduates or people who had been doing music for a couple of years. So it was kind of like some of the blind leading the blind that way, which is kind of sharing war stories and seeing what worked and what didn't. And I think it, like, to some extent that's still the case. And like just kind of is the case for working as a musician. You never really know what's going on. You never really know what your next move is going to be,
right?
Which is terrifying. Like, especially for my temperament and personality, I loathe that. But we're learning to adapt. But yeah, and it was also very like, because I graduated in 2019, which was right before everything shut. Like, it was a very poorly timed time to enter the music industry, or to try to. So I was just I spent those first few months kind of just flailing around, sending that bad demo to people, doing a few live performances from a few connections I did have from school, doing some artist stuff, which went very badly, and just doing. I had a church gig at the time, like all of that. And then like I honestly, before the pandemic, I'm actually in a way, in retrospect, and I am very reticent to say this because I don't want the universe to get the wrong message. I am kind of grateful for the pandemic, because before, like for the couple months before the pandemic, I was like, I needed money. I live in Anaheim. I was working at Disneyland, and not doing entertainment in Disneyland. I was selling popcorn in downtown Disney. Like that was the most glamorous thing I was doing at that time. And then that went away too. Like everything went away. I moved back to I didn't move back to Colorado, but I stayed with my parents for about a month. Which honestly, that month I really started kind of doing more production, doing more writing, just kind of doing music to do music. And like just kept up with like mentors and friends over FaceTime, Zoom, because we had nothing else to do. That kind of free month, that time initially of just doing nothing, really helped kind of reset a lot of kind of my goals, my wants as far as music goes, which I think it's not a unique story. That happened for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's still an ongoing process. Like I remember, of course, I had the very cliche dream of like, I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to become a star. I'm going to win Grammys. I'm going to you learn very quickly that that's not exactly an achievable reality. I don't want to say it's not an achievable reality, but for where I was with the resources I had was not in the cards. And so I kind of started just building back up from COVID, like what little I could. And it started with teaching. Because I had a couple of like vocal coaching clients before, but like COVID and being able to teach online and everybody was bored. Like I actually started teaching in earnest and coaching in earnest during 2020. And that led to kind of doing some co-writing. I realized that I had some skills in vocal arranging and vocal production. That's kind of like inched its way into the mix. Then live stuff started coming back, and I had learned how to do an actually decent demo. So I started getting a few more gigs organically that way. Did a few live streams, and now it's just kind of whatever hodgepodge is happening at any given time right now, which I definitely couldn't have seen for myself when I graduated, or like when I like kind of wanted to do music as a living.
Yeah.
But I'm still doing music as a living now, which is like, there was a time like in 2019, 2020, I wasn't sure that was going to happen. Like I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make anything work, especially in LA. Oh my God, it's so expensive here. And like also like I am very fortunate to have like the family help and the benefits of privilege that I had. If I hadn't had that, I don't know if I'd still be doing this. So that must needs be remarked as well. But yeah, so it's just kind of a constant reset and reassessment and holding like, and I think that like, at least for me, the instinct is to just say, okay, so I'm not gonna go after anything. I'm just gonna kind of take what comes to me. I'm not gonna desire anything, because the second I still fall into this trap sometimes, just because it's very easy to do. Like the second I hope for anything, that guarantees I'm not going to get it. The second I submit to something I really, really want, that means like I'm not gonna do it. So it's really easy to just kind of be defensively apathetic, and just kind of shield that little 16-year-old kid who was writing shitty songs in a notebook in high school, wanted to be a pop star. I used to cringe at that kid, because he's still here, but I'm learning to kind of let him talk a little bit more, because you learned it's the balance between learning that it's okay to want things, and it's okay to want success as a singer, and want that stereotypical pipe dream of moving to LA and being a pop star, but holding that loosely and recognizing that this is a good thing to want, but I'm not going to, and I'm gonna chase it, but I'm not gonna chase it because I need it, and I'm not going to lose anything of myself if I don't get quote unquote success, as my insecurities want success to be given to me. So you just kind of do, and like I'm having it's still like stressful. I'm definitely not the most financially secure I've ever been in my life still, but they haven't kicked me out of my apartment yet. I'm making it work, and I'm having fun for the most part. Doing all the like 3 to 6.5 things that I'm doing. So
yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so true. And I know that so many of us completely relate to the journey just kind of unfolding like that. And I think it's great because it seems like you're already discovering this like so early in your career, where, the dream is so similar for most of us growing up. We want to be the rock stars. We want to be on a record label, and I'm not even sure if MTV is a thing anymore. So I'm not going to say that. But,
I think so.
We want to be like TikTok famous or YouTube famous or whatever, but there's a lot of us who have had to learn the resiliency to be in this business, learn the grit, learn to, handle the rejection, but still have a heart for what you want to do, and still have that desire, and allowing yourself to believe that, you still, could have something like that. But at the same time, our eyes are open to other opportunities in the business that we just would never have heard of as kids. Like, nobody knew what session work was when you're 8, nobody knew what, licensing was when you're, 12, and everything like that. But, as you keep going along, these opportunities kind of reveal themselves, different channels. And, I'm significantly older, so I'm way down the road, but I couldn't have believed at a certain time in my career that I would ever be satisfied not fulfilling that dream of, becoming a rock star. But this many years down the road, having, being in the band that I'm in for so many years, and doing just the coaching, the session work, all the different things that I have the opportunity to do. I mean, I can honestly say I'm genuinely happy doing what I'm doing. And I just, that's something that, I hope a lot of singers will stick with. And it's not, you can't teach that, unfortunately. It's just something that's discovered on your own,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Yeah. And of course the landscape's so different now too, with, the internet and the platforms that we have available to us, TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. And, it really levels that playing field. So I guess we just are in a time period of you never know. But in the meantime, you might want to put your eggs in more than one basket.
Oh, yes.
So tell me, like, once you kind of started pursuing all these things professionally, did you experience any like breakthrough opportunities that you considered breakthrough? Because obviously you've worked with some very high level, vocal contractors. How did those come to be for you?
Yeah, and like working with like Tim and Edie, those mostly came off of like David Laux's recommendation, and so, which I'm very grateful for. And that's still like even working with like really high level contractors, it's still like you get work when you get it. It's not like definitely not like a stable thing, but it's really like, it's like my experiences with them have been really fun, really awesome, really challenging musically. And those, so yeah, definitely those kind of opportunities. And I went to, I think I did a couple of Tim Davis's session singer intensives, which is a great just avenue for anybody looking to get into session singing or kind of curious about what the world is like. Highly recommend those. But yeah, like other opportunities, like working with Automatic, working with Bruce Vanderveer, that came off of I don't even remember. Oh my gosh, I have to like remember. I think it was off of like, I think I saw a Facebook post from somebody like it was like an A&R looking for like submission. I honestly I don't even remember who it was. I don't remember that far back, but like I said somebody somewhere some music of mine, and then like I ended up like in the same room as him, and he and his wife Ebony are both amazing. They have this like gorgeous like house that they essentially transformed like the whole house into a studio, and have their own like boutique record label, and they're both just so passionate about what they do, and so just on board for artist development and writing, and they're good people. And that's like just everything I've done with them has been really rewarding and really inspiring. Talk about people, and like I have to credit them because like they're just people who are just eternal sources of light and energy, and love of music. And I tend to be a little bit of a pessimist sometimes. So like every time I've seen them, I've been in a room with them, I've needed it, because I have been very close to just kind of throwing in the towel and just getting really jaded about music in general. And then like they are people who will remind you that you actually love this, that you actually love music and love doing what you do. But yeah, and that's not something I planned on. That's not something I really even clearly remember how it happened. Yeah, they're good people, and I'm very, very grateful for that particular connection and outlet.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you so much for talking with me for the hour, sharing your journey. It was great getting to know you. I hope that at some point our paths will cross and we can sing together at some point. But I went ahead and put up your links in the comments, so everybody has your social links and they have your Spotify page. Please check out Rewind by Chris Hutton. It's awesome. I'll be listening to it, continuing to listen to it. And I wish you so much success with everything that you're doing. And I hope that you, I wanted to also just acknowledge and say that I'm so glad to know that there are teachers out there like you molding the young minds that are coming up.
Gosh.
Well, I love your philosophy on what drives, the way you teach. And I think that's really beautiful. So I appreciate that so much. But
yeah, we try our best.
Yeah. Thank you again. Again, my best wishes to you always. And hopefully we can have you back on again soon. I will be back here next week with my guest, Joanna Pearl. So same time next week. And thank you to everybody who joined us live tonight. We will see you next week. Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. This was awesome.
You too.